Hi everybody and welcome back to Kimbo's Comfort Kitchen, and today we are going to be using one of my favorite ingredients, which are potatoes. I love potatoes. I love them mashed. I love them just about any way you can do it. And today we're going to do scallop. We're going to do Scalloped Duaphinoise, which is from France and Savoie, where I used to live. It's not like my mo's or my mom's, which was much more basic. This has a few more ingredients in it. Traditionally this takes about 3 hours to make. I figured out a way to cut it the time almost in half, and actually I prefer the flavor profile on this recipe than on the original one, but you'll see why when we get into it. So let's get going and let's get cooking and make some potato dauphinoise. Okay, so let's start with the basic ingredients. We've got whole milk, we've got cream, whole cream, Gruyere, garlic, I love garlic, lots of garlic, nutmeg, and some bay leaves, a little bit of butter, of course Yukon Golds, some onions, which are not traditional in Dauphinoise, but I like it. When I lived in Savoie, some people used to use the onions in there, and I thought that was a nice addition, although it's not typically the classic one, and salt and pepper. And that's it. So let's prep all this stuff. So let's start with the scalloped potatoes themselves. I've got a bowl here with some cold water, and I've already started to cut some of them. I've got a little small handheld mandolin, which I really like, rather than the big metal ones, the big monsters. These are quite handy if you can find them. Now these are Yukon yellow flesh potatoes. I have not peeled them. Traditionally you would. If you were using russets, I would. But today I'm not going to, because I like all the peel. I like the nutrients that it provides in the potatoes, and it gives a really nice texture as well. So you can also, if you wanted to, use a food processor, but you won't get the same type of medallions that you're going to get from a mandolin. Or you could do it by hand, which is a real pain in the ass. I mean, it's difficult. So when you're using these, use the guard. I usually start it off without the guard, like this, and then once it's got a little bit of purchase, I go in like that. Because for any of you that have used this before, I'm sure you've seen mandolin accidents in the past, and they're not pretty. So this is what you're going to end up with. Pretty easy peasy. So I'm going to finish these off, do all the rest of the potatoes, and we'll come back. Okay, so the next step we're going to go to is the cream sauce. So here's the whole cream. Now normally with Dauphinoise as well, would also use nothing but whole cream, but I've toned it down just a little bit, and I'm using whole milk with some whole cream as well. And then we're going to put a couple of bay leaves in here, and I've got a mandolin. I've got my microplaner, and I've got some fresh nutmeg. Try not to use the powdered if you can help it. It comes out so much better. You know, fresh is always better, as they say. And it smells so good when you're grating it. This is awesome. So I'm going to use half of this. And where'd my garlic go? I'm going to put some garlic in here. As I said, I like to use real garlic. And I'm going to start to gently warm this up once I've mixed it up. I'll be right back. And of course I forgot the two major ingredients, which is salt and pepper. Now again, originally in the Dauphinoise it would be white pepper, but I actually like the black pepper. I like the flavor better, but I also like the black specks in it. I think it makes it look cool, but that's just me. If you want to really be sticking to the original part of the Dauphinoise, then I would not. But we're going to be using onions anyway as well. So go big or go home. So there we go, salt and pepper. And I'm going to test it later on to see if it's seasoned, so if I need to adjust. And where is my whisk? Just do that. And as I say, I'm going to bring this up to a gentle. I'm going to warm this up a bit before I introduce the potatoes to it. All right, so it's a few minutes later. I've warmed this up. Like, it's just tepid. But before I introduce the potatoes, hello potatoes, to that sauce. I don't want to water the whole thing down, so I'm going to take them out of the water. It's an extra step. You don't have to, but as always, that's the devil in the details. So, for the amount of time it takes, I'm going to simply dry these off a bit. Dry them off a bit, I said. There we go. And put them in with the cream and its various components. And once I've done all that, we'll come back. Alrighty then, so I have taken these onions to the mandolin, so to speak, and I'm just simply going to soften them up a bit, little saute. I'm not going to caramelize them. I could if you wanted to, I guess. That would be another dimension to the Dauphinoise, but again, sort of off point. I have taken the potatoes themselves off heat. They are now pretty flexible, because you can see I don't want to cook all the way through, because that would make it very difficult to place in the pan and everything would be overcooked. On the other hand, with the original recipe for Dauphinoise, you put them straight into the pan, put them in the oven, but just put them in for about 7,500 hours, and it takes forever. So this is just sort of a way of getting them par cooked before I put them in. Not to mention the fact that it gives it a chance for the potato to start to absorb some of the aromatics and the cream that we've put together before. So this is almost done. Not much more than this. And then we'll start to assemble. Okay, so we've had the scalloped potatoes in this beautiful bath of aromatics and cream and milk and garlic, bay leaves, nutmeg, and they're sitting there quite happy right now. They are just under par cooked. That meaning that I still need to be able to handle them. I don't want them breaking apart when I put them in dish. So the next step is, now I'm going to take them and put them into this colander and let all that beautiful sauce drip down below. And then I'm going to start placing them into the dish. Okay, so we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. I'm going to find my brush, and I've put this pan with parchment underneath in a baking tray, because I have a very tiny oven and I don't want a lot of splatter or things falling over this side to burn. Well, even if you had a large oven, you wouldn't like it. So there you go, a little bit on the sides, like that. And where you go. Now, let's see if I can find my slotted spoon. And I'm going to start laying the potatoes in. Now, again, if you were going to do this technically correct, you would do it like you're doing shingles on a roof. But I'm not being that particular today. Make sure when you're doing this also that you remember to take out the bay leaf, or two, whatever, how many you've got in there. I've already taken one out, I found, but I'll find it shortly. So once we lay these in, and they're warm, so I'm going to lay these around like that, like that. Like I said, they're not perfect, but so long as they're evenly layered, at the end of the day. This isn't Martha Stewart style, that's for sure. She likes hers all done in a row. She has a really nice recipe for this too, by the way. A little bit different. Oh, quite a bit different actually. So now that I've got that going, I'm going to sprinkle in just very little. You don't want to do this liberally. You just want just sort of like a bit of a taste, a hint of the onion in there. And then now it's almost like doing a lasagna. You're going to do a layer at a time. So I'm going to keep doing this, and then I'll come back when I finish topping it up. Otherwise it's just boring. All right, so I've topped up the rest, poured in the rest of the sauce, and I'm going to put the Gruyere on top. And I'm going to pop this into an oven for, let's see, I'm going to do an hour at 350. And I'm not going to cover this at first because I want it to evaporate some of the cream, the moisture from the cream, to thicken it up. And then I'll check on that, and if it looks like it's too brown, then I will put foil on top to finish it, and then crisp it at the end. But I just want to make sure that this is nice and thick and not runny. So here we go. So I've pulled this out halfway through at 30 minutes, and I'm going to now cover this for the next 30 minutes with tin foil with some vegetable spray, or if you've got oil or something to put on top of the foil, and put it back in for the next half hour. And we'll take another look. While I'm waiting for the scalloped potatoes to bake, I took the rest of the cream and the milk and the sauce that we had that was left over, and I made a beautiful bechamel out of it. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to freeze it. And it makes because of all of the aromatics, everything that's in it, it makes for an amazing bechamel that you can use in just about any everyday sauce you normally would. I personally am going to use this for my mac and cheese recipe with truffle oil, which you can find on my site as well. Anyway, if you're wondering what I'm doing with leftovers, that's it. There aren't any. All right, so this has been 1 hour altogether. 30 minutes with the top off, 30 minutes off, on, off, and voila, the big reveal. So what I'm going to do is just check. Yeah, this is really nice. Really, really nice. And I'm going to finish this off just because I'm a glutton for cheese, with a little bit more Gruyere and a little bit of onion. You don't have to do this part, it's just because I'm greedy. But this is done perfectly. And because we blanched the potatoes at the very beginning, we cut off quite a bit of cooking time. And the other thing that's going to be nice about this is that I'm actually only making this for 3 people, believe it or not. And then when it's done and it's set, after we're finished, I'm going to section this off and into portions, and I'm going to freeze it. So the next time I want to have scalloped potatoes, I can just pull it out of the freezer and pop it in the oven. So let's put this back in for 30 minutes and we'll show you. All right, so here's what we've got. Here's the finish right there. And I'm gonna let this cool for at least 15 minutes. It has a set, there's no way you can cut this obviously right now. But I'm gonna let this cool down. It probably could cool for, if you wanted to, you could give it for even almost an hour. And then just warm it right before you're gonna eat. But this is a texture I like. It's a combination of Dauphinois, gratinee, and regular old good old-fashioned scalloped potatoes. So once this is settled down, then I'll cut a section out and you can take a look and see what it looks like. Okay, so just as an aside, here are the 8 portions that I've cut that's left over from the entire thing. We fed, there were 4 other portions out of that recipe. And this I'm going to put in the freezer, and this will be good for like 3 months. Not to mention, as I said before, the bechamel sauce that we got as a byproduct from it. So that, mes amis, is a way to make potatoes dauphinoise. If you like this recipe and would like to see more, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the button down here to subscribe. I would appreciate it. And if you have any comments or you'd like any questions about it, please. Potatoes Duaphinoise. If you like this recipe and would like to see more, if you haven't subscribed, please hit the button down here to subscribe. I would appreciate it. And if you have any comments or you'd like any questions about it, please, you can also leave comments down below as well. I'd be happy to respond to that. Two big takeaways from this. One is, this is a way to cut down on time on making scalloped potatoes, and almost by half of a traditional method. And the other one is, you can freeze this, as I showed you before. Put that away in the fridge, and then when you want to bring them out a day ahead of time. Put them in the refrigerator, and let them thaw out overnight, and then put your oven on 350, and Bob's your uncle, and you're ready to go. And you've got instant scalloped potatoes Dauphinois for whatever, whether it's ham or if you're doing fondue or something like that. So I hope this was helpful, and as I mentioned before, please subscribe. Take care.